Hey, welcome back to Polytech, where we cut through the noise, slice through the propaganda, and get straight to the truth. I'm your host, Dale. And today we're going to be stepping into a story that Washington is scrambling to kind of contain, or maybe they're not. Who knows? There seems a lot of information going out to the media about this event. So everybody's talking about the three Epstein emails that have been released about Donald Trump and having him involved in at least being mentioned in there quite a bit, quite a bit. So, but what you might have probably missed is that about 20,000 more Epstein documents were quietly released at about the same time. Let this sink into your head. 20,000 documents that have been released. And just as those hit public, there's another bombshell that's sort of rolling out that's kind of being kept a little bit secret. It's top Trump administration officials meeting in the White House Situation Room with Representatives Lauren Boebert to talk about forcing the Justice Department to release Epstein sealed files. What it's really about is to have her change her mind about the vote, since they've hit the 218 threshold where they can actually release the files. So while the headlines are chasing a few old emails that are important, don't get me wrong, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. Inside Washington, the real fight is about the files we haven't seen yet. So let's talk about what's really going on and what's inside this new document dumped. Before we get into the explosive stuff, let's ground this in fact, because the spin machine is doing its best job at confusing everybody, including myself, where you've got to double check everything and fact check everything that they're saying out there. So let's go over these facts one by one. So fact one, victims' names are always redacted. That's a standard procedure. It's been that way for decades. Fact two, these 20,000 documents did not come from the Justice Department's secret Epstein files. These files are sealed. So we haven't seen them yet and they haven't been voted on as of yet. Fact three, these came straight from the Epstein estate to the House Oversight Committee. Both parties looked at it, both parties signed off on it, and agreed upon releasing them. Fact four, last fact here, Trump has never been, keep this in mind, legally accused of any Epstein related crime, right? Innocent until proven guilty. So what are we really dealing with here? We are dealing with really the words of Epstein. Epstein's claims, Epstein's perceptions of power, how that power works, etc. That's what we're really looking at. And that's where things start to connect as we look through this. Because while this drop hit the internet like a storm, the White House was holding a meeting about these sealed DOJ files. So this is the meeting that no one is really talking about. And here's what actually happened. Multiple sources confirmed that top Trump officials, including Attorney General Pam Bondi, Deputy AG Todd Blanche, and I believe FBI Director Kash Patel, had been pulled into in the meeting situation room on this Wednesday with Rep. Lauren Boebert and I believe two or three other reps that were pulled into these meetings. So why was this set up and what's going on? Well, it's really to discuss an effort in the House to force vote on releasing Justice Department Epstein case files, or in other words, how to stop it. Because now they have enough votes to be able to sign off on it. They have the 2018. And that might sound a little bit procedural, but this is actually huge. That vote can only happen, like we said, if the 218 members of Congress sign a discharge petition to override the leadership and bring it to the actual floor. And guess what? Our newly sworn Democratic member just became the 218th signature. That means the House can now compel a vote to release Epstein's files, right? Sounds all great. At the same time, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters, doesn't that show transparency when we sit down and with the members of Congress and address their concerns? But when press, she refused to the details of what was said in that Situation Room. So much for the transparency of this administration. So afterwards, very interesting, Boebert posted on X, "Together we remain committed to ensuring transparency for the American people." Let's kind of translate what she's saying. Something big is coming up, and the administration knows it, and everybody involved actually knows. Now, let's talk about the three emails making all of the noise right now. So, the first one, email one, there we're calling the dog that hasn't barked email. Epstein claims victims spent hours with Trump. Republicans say that the victim was Virginia Giuffre, who has repeatedly said Trump was always a professional and never touched her. So this one shows Epstein's manipulating narratives and not revealing new evidence or anything new in that email. So let's talk a little bit about email two. He knew about the girls. Epstein's writes that Trump knew about the girls at Mar-a-Lago. There's no proof, just Epstein's bragging and inflating his own importance in this email. But there is some weight to it and there's some leverage to it. So let's look at email number three, which we're calling use denial as a leverage. So journalist Michael Wolff tells Epstein, if Trump denies knowing you, use that. It's leverage. So these are things and glimpses into how the mentality, the strategies, immorality kind of shapes this whole thing out for us, right? So these three are just bait. They're distractions. Just keep that in mind. The clickbait headlines, while real information sits buried under thousands of pages no one really wants to read. So if you're focusing on the three emails that came out, realize there's was literally 20,000 documents released at the same time. That's even more telling than what's out there. So the media just isn't showing you this information. So here's where it gets really, really wild. The emails, the mainstream outlets kind of skipped or did skip is email one. I'll wait outside, don't want to walk in and find Trump in your house. A guest jokes about walking into Epstein's home and finding Trump there. People believed Epstein still had access to Trump during his presidency. And as we kind of go through these documents, and I've gone through probably about 500 documents at this point, and his name is this flooded through almost every document of those 20,000 documents. So email two, I need my marching orders. Epstein writes to a contact saying he won't talk to reporters until he gets marching orders. From who? From who? Where is he getting these marching orders? Nobody really knows. A lawyer, a political fixer, someone intelligent. It's really a mystery. And that line alone probably sets off alarms for a whole bunch of agencies. So let's look at the third email that I looked at. Gently imply that I have tapes. So Michael Wolff tells Epstein to gently imply that I have tapes of who, of what. Nothing in detail is put into these emails, no explanation. It just is what it is. Okay. The other email, fourth email, as I'm calling it, I'm thinking what Trump would do. So Epstein literally says he's modeling his crisis PR after Trump. He admired Trump's ability to shape narratives and even when he's cornered, even if he's lying or telling half truths or whatever it may be. And email five, early dementia. Interesting. Epstein mocks one of Trump's quotes and writes, early dementia. So much for loyalty, right? I mean, and so much for karma. I mean, that, well, not so much for karma, so much for Trump always putting Biden down for dementia. I mean, karma kind of hits hard, doesn't it? These emails don't prove crimes. They really don't at all. But they show a man obsessed with perception, power, trying to mimic the very people he actually envied and actually seen as heroes. So, what's the political fallout from this? Here's where the story hits the nerve quite a bit. So the White House meeting shows that Trump's team knows the story isn't just about Epstein. It's about control and it's about narrative. And it's already dividing the GOP. Inside sources say GOP members are fighting back and forth on how to handle this or even to support the president at this point. Lawmakers like Boebert, Nancy Mace, and even Marjorie Taylor Greene are siding with transparency. Meanwhile, Trump's allies are trying to keep the released content under control. Mace even sent Trump a direct message explaining why she is supporting the petition, saying, quote, I will never abandon other survivors. So what's next? What's going to happen, right? This is a difficult, almost as the world turns kind of story in DC. So it's going to be quite a ride. And so I'll try to bring the news to you as it comes along, as the story starts to grow. So if the House votes passes the DOJ's Epstein files, the one that everyone has been chasing for years, could finally see daylight. Okay, so this might happen. We've got right now, as it stands, 218 votes. That is if the meeting that was pulled together with Boebert, Mason, etc., doesn't flip them to pull their vote a different way. And that was really the meaning of that meeting. So, that kind of all hinges on that. And that's where it gets really, really complicated because Trump himself has signed off on releasing the very files that could mention him. Whether that's confidence that it will never be released, or maybe internally he wants to admit to what he actually did. So, what does all this mean? Epstein wasn't just a predator, he was a manipulator, a total manipulator, a man who lived on the illusion of power and power from others. He talked about presidents and CEOs as if they were chess pieces that he could actually control. And that illusion, that perception is what made him extremely dangerous. Now, Washington fighting over who controls the rest of the truth, the 20,000 documents were just an appetizer. The sealed DOJ files, that is the main course, that is the main truth. If you want me to keep digging, if you want me to do a part 2 to this, where we trace the network behind the communications, share this episode, tag me on social media. You can also follow me on Spotify, on Substack, and on YouTube. I want to thank everybody for listening to me. And again, please feel free to follow me.